It was a moonless night when I found myself embarking on a journey that would forever haunt my dreams. As a seasoned storyteller of terrifying tales, I had always been drawn to the darkness that lay hidden within the human psyche. However, this time, I would become an unwilling participant in a chilling narrative of my own. The chilling autumn air permeated the deserted train station as I awaited the arrival of the midnight train. I had received an anonymous tip about a murder that had taken place aboard this very train, and my curiosity had gotten the better of me. My name is Mason, and I have spent the past 30 years uncovering the darkest secrets, never revealing my true identity. As the train pulled into the station, I boarded with a mix of apprehension and excitement. The carriage was eerily silent, save for the rhythmic clatter of wheels on the tracks. I walked along the narrow corridor, peering into each compartment in search of any sign of foul play. The dim lighting cast long shadows that seemed to dance with malevolence. Just as I was about to give up hope, I stumbled upon a compartment at the far end of the carriage. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint glow emanated from within. With cautious steps, I pushed the door open and entered, feeling a shiver creep down my spine. Inside, I found myself in a scene of unimaginable horror. Blood stained the walls, the floor, and the seats. A lifeless body lay slumped against the window, its vacant eyes staring into nothingness. The gruesome sight sent a wave of nausea crashing over me, but I knew I had to push forward. I reached for my phone to call the authorities, but to my horror, I discovered that I had no signal. Panic washed over me as the realization dawned that I was trapped in this nightmare with no means of escape. The only option left was to continue my investigation. I rummaged through the victim's belongings, searching for any clue that might lead me to the truth. Among the personal effects, I discovered a journal tucked away in a hidden compartment. Its pages were filled with cryptic entries, each one more chilling than the last. The author described a sense of impending doom, a feeling that they were being watched. As I delved deeper into the journal, I began to unravel a web of deceit and betrayal. It seemed that the victim had stumbled upon a dangerous secret, one that someone was willing to kill to protect. But who was the killer? And why did they choose this train as the stage for their macabre act? Suddenly, a noise outside the compartment snapped me back to reality. Footsteps echoed through the corridor, growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. I knew I had to hide, to blend into the darkness and become a silent observer. I extinguished the light, plunging the compartment into darkness, and pressed myself against the wall. The footsteps drew nearer, and my heart pounded in my chest. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside, their presence suffocating the air. The figure moved stealthily through the compartment, its silhouette barely discernible in the darkness. I held my breath, praying that it wouldn't discover my presence. The intruder seemed to be searching for something, their movements methodical and deliberate. As the seconds ticked by like an eternity, I strained my senses to catch any clue that would unveil the identity of the killer. Suddenly, a soft whisper escaped the intruder's lips, sending a chill down my spine. "You can't hide forever, Mason," the voice hissed, dripping with menace and familiarity. My heart froze. How did they know my name? The realization hit me like a freight train. The killer wasn't a stranger. They were someone who knew me, someone who had discovered my secret identity. Panic mingled with dread as I wondered how deep the web of deception truly went. The footsteps drew closer to my hiding place, and I pressed myself further into the darkness, desperately praying that I would go unnoticed. The intruder stopped just a few feet away, their presence looming like a shadowy specter. I could hear their labored breathing, the sound of anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Time stood still as the intruder's hand reached out, fingertips brushing against the wall, inching closer to my concealed form. In that moment, I knew that I had to make a choice: stay hidden and risk becoming the next victim, or confront the darkness head-on. Summoning every ounce of courage within me, I stepped out from the shadows, confronting the killer face to face. The room was filled with a pregnant silence as our eyes locked in a battle of wills. Recognition flickered in their gaze, mingled with a sinister satisfaction. "You've been meddling in affairs that don't concern you, Mason," the killer sneered, their voice dripping with venom. "But tonight, the game ends." I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated by their threats. "Who are you? What is this all about?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. A malevolent smile spread across their face, revealing a glimmer of sadistic pleasure. "You should have never boarded this train, Mason. Now you'll pay the price for your curiosity." Before I could react, the killer lunged at me, a gleaming blade glinting in the pale moonlight. Instinct kicked in, and I fought back with every ounce of strength I possessed. A desperate struggle ensued, the confined space of the compartment becoming a battlefield of life and death. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline, I managed to gain the upper hand, disarming the killer and forcing them to the ground. Their masks slipped, revealing a face I never expected to see, the face of a trusted friend, a confidant. "Why, Sarah?" I gasped, my voice choked with disbelief. Sarah had been by my side throughout my journey as a storyteller, a loyal companion. I couldn't fathom how she could be capable of such darkness. A sinister laughter escaped her lips, devoid of remorse. "You were always the master of suspense, Mason, but tonight, the tables have turned. I've written an ending for you, one that you won't survive." In a moment of desperation, I scrambled for the discarded blade, knowing that my only chance at survival lay in fighting back. As I raised the weapon, ready to defend myself, the train hurtled through a tunnel, plunging the compartment into pitch-black darkness. The scuffle continued, the sounds of struggle echoing through the void. When the train emerged from the tunnel, the compartment fell silent. The fight had come to an end, leaving behind a trail of shattered dreams and broken lives. As the authorities boarded the train, drawn by the commotion, they found me standing over the lifeless body of Sarah, my heart heavy with grief. The truth about the murder on the night train would never be fully revealed. It would remain a mystery, buried in the depths of darkness, just like the secrets I had spent a lifetime uncovering. And so, I returned to my life as a storyteller, haunted by the events of that fateful night, forever preserving the secret of my own involvement in the tale. The night was cloaked in a thick blanket of darkness as I stood on the deserted platform, waiting for the late-night train. This time, I wasn't on a quest for a macabre story to tell. I was simply traveling to visit my ailing grandmother in a distant town. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary night would soon transform into a chilling nightmare. As I stepped aboard the train, a wave of unease washed over me. The atmosphere inside the carriage was heavy, suffused with an eerie silence. The dimly lit compartments seemed to whisper secrets to one another, and the flickering lights cast unsettling shadows that danced along the walls. Finding my seat, I settled in, hoping for an uneventful journey. But fate had other plans in store. As the train began to move, a feeling of foreboding settled deep within me. The rhythmic sound of the wheels on the tracks only intensified the growing unease. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to explore the train in an attempt to shake off the creeping sense of dread. Walking down the narrow corridor, I peered into each compartment, expecting to find nothing more than weary travelers lost in their thoughts. However, as I approached the last compartment, a flickering light caught my attention. The door was slightly ajar, and an inexplicable force drew me closer. With hesitant steps, I pushed open the door and entered, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside, I found myself in a scene straight out of a nightmare. The walls were smeared with blood, the air thick with the stench of death. A shiver ran down my spine as my eyes fell upon a lifeless body slumped against the window, its face contorted in a frozen mask of terror. A surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins as I reached for my phone to call for help. But as I frantically searched my pockets, I realized with growing horror that my phone was missing. Panic gripped me as I realized the train was hurtling through a remote area with no means of communication. The weight of the situation pressed down upon me, and I knew that I had to find answers. I began to search the compartment for any clues that might shed light on what had transpired. Among the scattered belongings, I discovered a crumpled note hidden beneath a discarded jacket. With trembling hands, I unfolded the note and read its ominous contents. It detailed a sinister game, a twisted experiment conducted by an unknown entity on this very train. The victims were chosen at random, and the only way to survive was to unravel the mysteries hidden within the compartments. A cold realization dawned upon me. I was now a player in this terrifying game of life and death. The compartment door slammed shut behind me, trapping me inside. Darkness enveloped the space, leaving me with nothing but my wits and a burning desire to survive. Heart pounding, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the horrors that awaited me within the confines of the train. The note had revealed that each compartment held its own puzzle, its own macabre challenge that needed to be solved in order to progress. I had no choice but to play along if I hoped to survive. With trepidation, I moved towards the first compartment, my mind racing with a mix of fear and determination. As I entered, the atmosphere shifted, becoming suffocatingly oppressive. The air seemed to thicken, making it difficult to breathe, as if the very space itself conspired against me. The compartment was dimly lit, the flickering bulb casting eerie shadows on the walls. My eyes fell upon a cryptic message scrawled across the window, a riddle that held the key to my escape. It spoke of hidden clues, obscure symbols, and a time limit that added an extra layer of urgency. Driven by a surge of adrenaline, I combed through every inch of the compartment, desperately searching for any signs or symbols that might provide a clue. The minutes slipped away, each one laced with a sense of impending doom. But just as despair began to set in, my fingers brushed against a small object tucked away beneath the seat. Pulling it out, I realized it was a worn diary, its pages filled with faded ink and cryptic writings. It belonged to a previous victim of this deadly game, someone who had fought against the darkness that lurked within these train walls. Their writings hinted at a hidden compartment, one that held the key to unraveling the mystery. My heart quickened with hope as I followed their clues, my fingers tracing the walls, searching for the elusive entrance. And then I found it. A small panel, cleverly concealed behind a loose piece of wallpaper. With trembling hands, I pried it open, revealing the hidden compartment filled with an array of strange objects. Among the items, my eyes locked onto an ornate key, intricately carved and seemingly imbued with significance. Instinctively, I knew it was the key to my freedom from this sinister train. With renewed determination, I clutched it tightly, ready to face the next challenge. As I moved on to the next compartment, the puzzles grew more complex, testing not only my wit, but also my nerves. Each room presented a unique trial, from deciphering enigmatic codes to facing gruesome tests of courage. The presence of an unseen antagonist loomed over me, their intention to break my spirit evident in the malevolent traps set along the way. Hours blurred into an amalgamation of fear and survival, my mind and body pushed to their limits. With each successful puzzle solved, a glimmer of hope pierced through the darkness. But the thought of the unknown adversary, lurking in the shadows, reminded me that my journey was far from over. Finally, as I reached the last compartment, a sense of both dread and anticipation consumed me. I braced myself for the final trial that would determine my fate. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber suffused with an otherworldly glow. Standing at the center was a figure, shrouded in darkness, their face obscured by a tattered cloak. They spoke in a voice that sent shivers down my spine, a voice that hinted at the true nature of this twisted game. "You have come far, seeker of truth," they said, their words dripping with malice. "But to claim your freedom, you must face the ultimate sacrifice." A surge of defiance coursed through me, fueled by the desire to survive and expose the truth behind this nightmarish ordeal. I refused to be a pawn in their sadistic game any longer. With a burst of courage, I lunged at the figure, wresting control away from them. In the ensuing struggle, their cloaks slipped, revealing a face that mirrored my own, a doppelganger, an embodiment of my darkest fears and desires. As we grappled, locked in a battle of wills, a sudden burst of light filled the compartment. The train screeched to a halt, and the authorities stormed in, drawn by the chaos within. The doppelganger, my tormentor, vanished into thin air, leaving behind a sense of lingering malevolence. The nightmare had come to an end, but the scars it had left upon my psyche would endure. In the aftermath, the truth behind the deadly game was unveiled. A twisted experiment orchestrated by a deranged individual seeking to explore the depths of human resilience. Justice would be served, and the victims of this cruel game would find solace in knowing that their tormentor had been apprehended. As for me, I emerged from that nightmarish journey forever changed. The memories of that night would haunt me, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that resides within us all. And so I returned to my role as a storyteller, weaving tales that straddled the line between reality and the macabre. But deep down, I knew that the most terrifying story I had ever experienced was the one that would forever remain locked within the confines of that night train.